Hello and welcome back. A key part of writing a program is to control the flow of the program. So far we've encountered variables such as basic data types as int, floats, strings or booleans, and more complex data structures such as Mr. dictionaries, for example. But in order to write some programs, you would need to check for conditions and act accordingly, whether or not such a condition is fulfilled. Therefore, we need to look at ways to control the flow of the program, and we now look at if statements, for loops, or while loops. We can also, of course, iterate over lists and dictionaries, which we'll focus on later on. But the simplest part is the if statement, and we can use it as a simple means to conditionally execute some code or not. And the general syntax of a simple if statement is if condition : action. And this condition needs to evaluate to either true or false. So if this is a true statement, then the action is executed, and if not, then it's not. So if we have some variables a or b, say for example integers, then we can, for example, test if a equals b, and note here that we need to use the double equal sign, because remember, for variable assignments we use the single one, so we need to use something else here. We use the double one as a comparison. It could also be not equal, less than, or greater than. So let's test this. Say we have the variable a equals 1 and b equals 2. And first we evaluate the statement, is a greater than b? So a greater than b, and this needs to have an either true or false statement, and we can test this by printing it. And we can see, because a is 1 and b equals 2, that this statement is false. Now if we were to do this in an if statement, we would say if a equal b, print. But because this is false, a is not greater than b, this is not printed, and we only get this line. Here we see one of the very important aspects of programming in Python, the indents. Note that this print statement that belongs to the if clause is indented. Typically we use a tab for this. So that means everything in this level of indentation is part of the if loop, and everything that is not indented or at the same level of this one is outside this if loop. This is different from other programming languages, such as, for example, C++, where they use curly brackets to indicate what belongs to such a statement, but it has the advantage that the code becomes more readable. Now, the simple if statement is maybe a bit too simple for many situations, so we can become more flexible if we test for more than one condition using elif, which is short for else if, and then finally the else as a catch-all for everything. So say we have a equal to 10, then we can say if a is greater than 100, or greater than 50, or greater than 10, or else we print this one. So because a is 10, none of the others apply, but as an exercise, change the value and see how this affects it. In a more compact way, if we only have one condition to test, we can also print it in one line. So print this if the condition, else print something else. It's the same thing really as we've done above here, but because we only have to test one condition, we can write it in a more compact way. So far we've only tested for one condition, but we can also test for several conditions using and or. So say we have these two variables, a equals 10, b equals 15, then we can say if first condition, in round brackets, a greater than 10, and second condition, and because these conditions aren't met, we don't print anything. We can also nest if statements with an if statements with an if statements, and if we need to repeat this, have if statements with an if statement with an if statement, and so on. As an exercise, write a nested if statement checking if the value of the variable is above 25, and so